welcome back to episode 30. 30 weeks of the podcast now, but this is episode 30 of the Snatch Chat podcast. You are joined with me, Oates. I am going to run through a bunch of different questions that we've been asked. Some technique, we've got mindset in there, a few on equipment, and then, a bunch of other little things. So, let's get straight to it. Question number one. We're going to go personal, are we? What was the moment that made you decide you wanted to create an Olympic lifting club? Now, those of you that don't know, I have finally affiliated Optilift with British Weightlifting. So we have a facility inside CrossFit Digbeth. We are an affiliated British Weightlifting club, Optilift Performance Lab. And people that have come down to the classes that I've been running over the last few years will know how long of not a struggle, I don't want to make it sound like that, but how long of a journey it has been to get to this point. So I originally started at CrossFit Digbeth in 2021, so it was just after COVID, and I was running weightlifting classes for the CrossFit athletes. And I was coaching weightlifters anyway outside, but this was more focused around just helping CrossFitters move better in the Olympic lifts. And then from there, I started working with more weightlifters, and it started to, grow. And I was like, you know what, I've always said, if you go back to any of these podcasts, I'm always talking about the school community, the Optilift Performance Lab, which is a free community that anyone can join. And if you're not in it, use the link below to actually join. But I want to basically create a community of like-minded, everyday lifters, not elite level lifters that are training, 7, 8, 9 times a week. Just the people like you and I that are training 2, 3, 4 times a week. We've got a shit ton of things that are going on outside of training. We've got to be quite savvy with our time. You want to get good at the weightlifting, but you're just not a full-time athlete, basically. And I wanted to create this community so to help people understand how to train, what to look for, how to snatch and clean and jerk, and how to lift efficiently. So I created this community. And then from this community, I was like, it's good. And I've got loads of things that I'm pushing into there over these next sort of couple of months. So definitely just stay tuned over this podcast, because I'll start to share with you the journey that we're going on inside the free community. But inside this free community, I was like, this is good. This is good. This is brilliant. But the one thing that I do with a lot of my athletes that I coach online, like some of these people that I don't see very often. I've not met some of my clients because they live in other countries. But I've always said I wanted to, and I have done it, I wanted to put on these free training days where everyone that I coach comes down to just to the gym. We all train together. They get hands-on coaching with, from myself. But the goal here was to actually build a community. So it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we are one community. And I was like, this is good, but these training days then were happening at different gyms, which was brilliant. We were going around, and I was like, wouldn't it be flipping cool if we had a hub? The community inside the Optilift Performance Lab had somewhere that they were like, this is the home of the barbell. And that's basically what I've done here. So I spoke to CrossFit Digbeth, and I was like, I wanna build this weightlifting community. We're gonna, host competitions and training days for the people that we coach, and host it all inside the Optilift Performance Lab, which is in Birmingham, CrossFit Digbeth. And I'm starting to now see how this is actually going to be a fucking awesome community. I don't really want to share everything with you right now, but there's so much going to go on over these next couple of months. We've got 3 months of loads of stuff inside the community, whether it's the free school group, and then you've also got then the actual club, the Optilift Performance Lab in Digbeth. And I am so determined over these next sort of 3 months to actually start to, or people can actually start to see how that this is a community built for them. This isn't, I'm not doing this, I am doing it for myself, but I am doing this for people that enjoy the sport, they want to improve, and they just want to be lifting with like-minded people. So that's why I've done it. Was that the question? What was the moment that made you decide? It's always been a long burning desire, really, that I wanted a weightlifting club. I just didn't really know where to start. But it was from like when I would create this free school community, I was like, hang on a minute, like this is good, like there's loads of different resources in there, I'm helping people here, but it'd be really good now if like those training days that we do blend into the resource packs on the school community that blend into the training days. So yeah, I feel like the jigsaw pieces are finally starting to come together. But the real reason behind this is that I used to swim through my childhood, competitively, swam nationally, but the one thing that I got from swimming was the community vibe. You know, I had teammates, it was an individual sport for most part, but those people were still cheering you on, and that is what weightlifting is, and that's why I love weightlifting. Yes, it's an individual sport, you are on the platform on your own, but that doesn't mean that you can't have teammates that you're competing against, and you can still cheer each other on, you know, and you've got the best interest of that person at heart. You still want to see them do good, they still want to see you do good, you're just going head to head, and I think that's what it's all about, really. Trying to build this community to make the sport a better place. Otherwise it's just really flipping lonely. But yes, that's that. But yes, if you aren't in the free school community, join using the link, and then you'll get first access on what is happening over these next few months. We have a fundraiser coming up. We need people to come down and help us out, but I'll save that for another day. Question number 2. My bar keeps hitting my thighs in the snatch and leaving red marks. Is that a sign my bar path is right, or is it something going wrong with my pull? Okay, so what part of your thigh? I'm assuming that this is contact mid-thigh. Okay, so I would say that this is incorrect. We want to be making contact as close to our hip crease as possible. So if it's mid-thigh, what I'm assuming that you're doing is that you're driving into the bar too soon. Okay. The other thing that it might well be is that you need to take your hands a little bit wider. We want to make contact with the bar. And I remember ages ago when I was sort of, you know, I was getting into weightlifting. I've been doing weightlifting for about 2 years. I started, you know, doing little bits of coaching or assisting my coach, and there was this thing that was going around, like, you know, you shouldn't make contact with the bar. You shouldn't be looking to force contact. And I think it's one of those, and it all depends on the style of contact. The contact that you don't want to do is ramming that bar. Oh, sorry, no. The contact that you don't want to do is ramming your hips into the bar. Okay, and if that bar is making contact with your mid-thigh, I am assuming that bar is coming away from your body and you're driving your body into the bar. Okay, you're basically what I call, you're shagging the bar. Okay, it's not good. We want to keep it as close and as tight together as we possibly can. So I'm painting the full length of my thigh, but as I reach my hip crease, I'm aggressively pushing that bar into my hips. I want it to make good contact with my hips. I'm not looking to bring the bar away and then drive my hips into the bar. I'm looking to push that bar into my hips. So as I make that contact, I snap up tall, and the momentum that is placed on the bar is driven vertically rather than away from me. Okay? So you don't want to have painful red thighs. That would be a sign that you are shagging the bar, and you need to look at painting the full length of thighs, potentially just holding back a little bit before you try and drive into extension, and maybe take your hands wider so you've got a better contact point. Yeah. Question number 3. I've been training 7 months, and for the last 6 weeks everything has gone backwards. The same weight feels heavier and my catch positions feel worse than when I started. Is this just part of the process? So sometimes when you've been training for, say, 7 months, you're then looking to make a few adjustments so your movement then progresses onwards. But what you might find is that things will actually start to feel shit because you're trying to fix this one thing. So for example, the bar, or my hips are shooting up in that start position. So I'm looking to try and fix that start position. Now, all of a sudden, I've now my start position's getting better, I'm holding better positions, and it's now thrown out the rest of that lift, okay? Which obviously is not ideal. What I would always say to my athletes is that one focus point that we are looking to change, that one technical area that we're looking to try and adapt, if that is exactly how we want it to be, I'm not too arsed with the other things then that fall out of line. Because the journey over this sort of next 6 to 10, 12 weeks is about how to knit together the rest of the positions. Changing something at the start will change something later on down that food chain. But we shouldn't worry about the food chain, or later on down the food chain, until this start position is tight. Once this start position is tight, we then look to blend it in. And there's different movements that you can do to try and blend these sections together. And sometimes it does almost feel like you're going backwards because you now start positions tighter, you're holding better positions, you're actually now generating more force onto the bar, and all of a sudden it looks like you're spitting the bar out, so your overhead stability is out. Don't worry about that. Focus on this start position, fix that, and then work up the chain. Worry about the stability once everything else is in line. That's how I would always look at it. Always start with the biggest issue at hand and then progress on from there. Question number 4. Also, before I go to question number 4, I don't know whether you can hear this. I didn't test the mic beforehand, but I've got a fan right behind me. It is fucking 33 degrees, and I have got sweat dripping into my eyes. Now, if you're watching this over on YouTube or Spotify, I nearly said Shopify, but you won't find it on Shopify. My face looks very, very shiny. My God, it is hot. I don't want to moan about the weather because I like it, but being in this box room, doing this podcast, probably wasn't the best decision I've had to do on the hottest. I don't even know if that makes sense, but doing the podcast on the hottest day of the year in a box room with the door closed to try and get the acoustics correct was probably the worst idea. So when you're watching this back, I hope you enjoy it because I am losing weight in sweat. Anyways, question number 4. As a complete beginner walking into their first session, what do I actually need to bring and what can wait until I know I am serious about this? Okay, so this is someone who's just joined or going through the 7-day coaching trial down at the Weightlifting Club Performance Lab, and this is one of the questions that I have been asked multiple times per week. Beginner, they're looking to learn the Olympic lifts, they're joining the Broomstick Barbell program. What do I need to bring? Don't worry about bringing anything. Just wear what you normally wear to the gym. Don't go out. I'm not one of these that goes, yeah, you need weightlifting shoes, you need a belt, you need wrist wraps. These will all start to well, let's just find out how you move first. That's the biggest thing. It's never about the equipment. That should never be the priority. Weightlifting shoes are good because they help you. They are a solid base, a solid sole, so they're nice and solid in that bottom position. They've got weighted heels, so it allows you to sort of sit on those heels a little bit more. Because the heel is elevated, you get relatively a better, more stable bottom position. One thing that we've got down at the Optimally Performance Lab, and I'm buzzing about this, is that we've got a bunch of just, used weightlifting shoes that are no longer needed by other members of the weightlifting club, and they're free to use. Just chuck them on and you can get the feel for them. Not everyone needs weightlifting shoes, okay? If there's elements that we're looking at and be like, okay, let's see if a weightlifting shoe helps, or you're wearing running shoes, for example, because that's the only shoes you've got, perfect. These are probably going to be better for you. And then, as I always say, if people like the way that a weightlifting shoe feels and they want to get their own pair, do not buy brand new, go straight to vintage, look for a second-hand pair. There's no point going out there spending, the best part of £200 on a pair of weightlifting shoes when you don't know what you're sort of looking for. There's loads of different weightlifting shoes out there. They all fit differently. They've all got a different heel elevation. The idea of the weightlifting club and collecting all these old shoes is that people can try on different brands and see what works for them. They go onto vintage, they get that pair, or they might buy the wrong pair, but because they haven't bought them brand new, it doesn't really matter. They chuck them back onto vintage, or they give them to the club, and you then get another pair. It's probably the cheapest and the easiest way of finding out what weightlifting shoe is best for you. Once you've done it for a year or so, and you know that you're enjoying the sport, that's when I'd start to look at getting weightlifting shoes. That'd probably be the first thing in my eyes that people would get. The next thing would probably be some wrist wraps. Again, all equipment isn't compulsory. None of this is compulsory. I'm not saying these are the things that you should go out and buy within the first 6 months of weightlifting. Absolutely not. Wrist wraps are really, really good, just at giving the wrist a little bit more support when you're going overhead, especially for the snatches and jerks. So if someone is finding that the wrists are hurting in that overhead position, or their wrist is sort of travel backwards and that's giving a bit of a pinch in the joint, a wrist wrap might help just to support the joint. And again, we've got loads down at the club. People try just to see if it's the right thing for them. And then you've got belts and knee sleeves. But again, all of this is down to the individual, and it should be something that you have a conversation about with your coach to actually see if it's the right thing for you. There's no equipment that is compulsory. Decent set of shoes with a solid base will be absolutely fine. Shorts and t-shirt. But the main priority here is going out and flipping enjoying the sport, okay? We want as many people to start taking part in weightlifting and enjoying the sport. It's never about the equipment and getting all these things before you go. Right, next question. I do CrossFit 4 days a week and want to generally improve my Olympic lifts. How do I structure extra lifting work without my body falling apart? So the first thing here is, if you're doing 4 CrossFit sessions per week, have you got time to put in 1 to 2 weightlifting sessions on top of your 4 sessions? If not, are you looking to reduce your CrossFit down for a period? It's probably the best thing to do rather than just layering up, unless you've got a shit ton of time on your hands and you haven't got, external factors like work, family, just personal life. The first thing that I would look at doing though, because the majority of people here listening to my podcast are busy people, they've got families, they've got busy jobs, life is hectic. They wouldn't be able to fit more sessions on top of their 4 CrossFit sessions. So if you genuinely want to improve your Olympic lifts, you've got to take the focus away from CrossFit. I'm not saying completely stop CrossFit. I'm just saying, rather than going from 4 sessions, let's just break it down to 2 sessions. And then there's 2 weightlifting sessions. Or it might well be, I want to have a higher focus on weightlifting and still do a little bit of, CrossFit to keep me sort of fit. So let's do 2 main sessions and 2 half sessions to fit around those 2 CrossFit sessions. So rather than just being an hour of CrossFit, you've got an hour of CrossFit and half an hour of strength work. So you've got to, rather than going, what do you think is right, what works for you as an individual and your life. If you can do 4 CrossFit sessions and 2 to 3 weightlifting sessions, which is insane, it's a lot of volume, and you can still maintain and do those workouts at a good level, perfect. I highly doubt that you can, and you're going to have to start to look at reducing the CrossFit to have a higher focus on weightlifting for 12 to 16 weeks. Improve your weightlifting, reduce this down, and then push that CrossFit back up. You can't, in my opinion, you can't do them both at the same time. One has got to have a higher priority. So if you're saying your weightlifting is the thing that you really want to improve the most, reduce the CrossFit so you've got a little bit more energy to actually put into the weightlifting. Do a really good job of improving your weightlifting, hone that back after 16 weeks, push on for CrossFit, rather than trying to do them at the same time, okay? Jack of all trades and master of none. That's how I would always revert back to that question. Question number 6. Every coach I've worked with tells me to keep the bar close in the snatch. I understand the instructions, but I genuinely cannot feel when I am or am not doing it. How do you actually teach someone to feel this? Keep the bar close. Okay, the best thing for me is paint the shins and paint the thighs, okay? Paint the shins, paint the thighs, feel the hips. That's the 3 things that I tell an athlete. When I want them to keep the bar close, I want to try and give them the visual or the feeling of what that's going to be like. Paint the shins, paint the thighs, feel the hips. Okay? A good way of them practicing and honing in on that is by slowing that movement down. Tempo snatch, slow snatch, whatever you want to call it. Moving as slow as you can so you can really feel the bar painting the shins, painting the thighs. Once I feel my hips, that's when I'm looking for that fast, explosive drop into that bottom position. So paint the shins, paint the thighs, feel the hip. Practice by slowing that movement down to understand the feeling of the cue at hand. And that is the way that I would look at keeping the bar close. Next question. Okay, I train at 6 a.m. before work and I'm never hungry that early. But I've heard you need to eat before lifting. What's the minimum I should do to actually fuel a morning session? I've had a few of these sort of questions appear over the last sort of few episodes. And there is no right or wrong, okay? No one should tell you that you need to eat and no one should tell you that you shouldn't eat. What do you feel like you can perform better on? Do you feel like you have a better training session or do you have a better training session in the morning if you don't eat? Now, if you eat, what are the things that you eat? You want short, fast digesting, simple carbs and some caffeine. If you prefer to do it on an empty stomach, don't eat, okay? Sometimes all you need is a caffeinated drink just to give you that boost of that alertness, okay? Some people don't. They just like a glass of water. You've got to find out what allows you to perform at your best, okay? Play around over the next sort of couple of weeks. Find out what works for you. Try some without anything, with nothing before, or no coffee. Have a coffee but no food. Have a coffee and a squares bar. Did the squares bar not really work? Have a coffee and a flapjack. Coffee and a banana. Coffee, rice cake and honey. Not all of them. Just one of those. And see how you like to perform. I can train on 100 grams of oats and literally go and lift the bar straight away, and I feel really good on that. But that's because I've done that literally since the age of 12 when I used to swim in the morning. But yeah, no one should tell you what the right and wrong is when it comes to nutrition and pre and post nutrition. You've got to find out what works for you and what makes you feel good, okay? Next question number 8. My first local competition in 8 weeks is 8 weeks away. Get in. I've been training for about a year and my technique is fairly consistent. What should I focus on in these 8 weeks and what should I stop worrying about? Okay, the focus points is making sure that you are hitting something that's going to give you 3 white lights, okay? Focus on being as clinical as you possibly can with your Olympic lifts, okay? When I go for every single snatch, I want to make sure that my arms are fully locked out, there's no elbow bend. I stand up, my feet are parallel, the bar is stable overhead before I drop the bar down, okay? Almost practicing holding it here and waiting for the judge to say, bar down. Okay, because you don't want to go to that competition and not practice that and you stand it all the way up or your feet aren't together and you drop the bar. It catches people out. A tier 3 local competition, it's not going to, but it's still something that I think that you should really try and focus on, okay? They're a little bit, the judges are a little bit more lenient at local competitions compared to the bigger competitions. So it's one of those where they'll give it and be just like, oh, by the way, next time you got to make sure that you hold the bar and wait for the down signal, or you've got to make sure your feet are parallel, or, oh, we had to fail that lift because that elbow bend. Make sure you're not doing that in the next rep. That's what I would look at doing, is just being super, super clinical in your Olympic lift. So if the snatch, for example, arms fully locked out, there's no bend in my elbow, I'm standing all the way up, my feet are parallel, I'm waiting for the judge, I'm almost trying to visualise the judge in front of me, down signal, I'll drop the bar. Okay, in my clean, I'm going to make sure that I'm receiving my elbows up. Elbows are nowhere near my knees, because if my elbow touches my knee, it's a no lift. I'm standing all the way up, I go for my split jerk, and I'm going to make sure that I stabilise the bar as I bring my feet together, wait for the down signal, and drop that bar down. The other thing that I would look at doing is making sure that I've got a stopwatch. Give yourself 2 minutes to then go for that next set. Hopefully it's not going to be the case, but you might have to follow your next. You've done your first attempt, and you might then be straight back out for your second attempt, which means you've only got 2 minutes rest. And 9 times out of 10, you probably had a lot more rest between these sub-maximal attempts. So get used to, that 2 minute clock. Can I regain that focus to then do that lift again? Okay? Everything else, just forget everything else. Just focus on being as clinical and as tight as you can with your lifts over these next few weeks. There's nothing to worry about. You're going to go out there and have fun. That is the top priority. The clinical lifting is just making sure that you have the fun. You don't want to go there and fail every lift because of these little mistakes. So just go on to, well, you know what? If you go into the resource pack inside the weightlifting school community with the link below, there's going to be, in this next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, everything that you need to know about a competition. So that is perfect. Yeah, everything you've gone through there, I have got in a resource pack inside the community, and it's going to tell you everything you need to know. Weigh in, how a competition works, how to read the scoreboard, what the judges are looking for, like I've just explained. And that's going to really, really help you out. That will actually probably reduce your anxiety down because you don't know what to expect at the moment, and it will tell you everything that you need to expect, or should expect. Right, question number 9. 3 weeks ago, I hit a 65 kilo snatch in training. Now I can't get 57 without it feeling completely wrong. Why does this happen, and what to do? What do you actually do when it hits? When this happens, maybe? Okay, so 3 weeks ago, I attempted a 100 kilo double snatch. Got first rep, failed the second rep. Fuck. Week after, I went for a 100 kilo double, got a double, awesome, winner. Week after that, I then went for 2 sets of doubles at 100 kilo, winner, got that. This week, I had a daily max, okay? Bearing in mind, I've now hit a double at 100 once. I've then, the week after, hit 2 doubles at 100. Perfect. I could not, for the life of me, hit a 100 kilo snatch this week for a single rep. Flipping losing it left, right and centre. That doesn't mean that I've lost my strength, okay? For me, I know that I've just overcooked it for these 3 weeks. Probably should have had a deload this week and then gone back into it. So, is it that, okay? Look at the external factors, because it's not that all of a sudden you've just lost the ability to snatch. What's your sleep been like? How's your hydration? What's your nutrition like? Are you stressed? Is work busy? Is your mind elsewhere? Are you rushing your sessions? Have you changed your warm-ups beforehand? Or is it just an off day? Okay? There's loads of different parameters to this. You can't just go, I've lost the ability. Look at the bigger picture, okay? Don't just focus on this. Start to edge it out and start to create a picture of what is actually going on. What was I doing when I hit that 60 kilo or 65 kilo? What have I been doing over the last few weeks when I've hit 57 and we're nowhere near 65? And you're going to start to pick it out, okay? Yeah, you've got to look at the bigger picture here. Simple as that. Question number 10, final question. I've been training for 18 months and I feel like I've hit a wall. The same weights, the same mistakes, the same sessions for about 3 months now. How do I even know if I need to change my program or just be more patient and trust the process? So, the same sessions for about 3 months. Okay, let's bring this all the way back. Why have your sessions been the same for the last 3 months? Something is telling me that those things that you're working on for the last 3 months in your program may not be the right things that you should focus on. Do you know, have you got a clear understanding on what is holding you back? What's the biggest issue at hand? If you don't know, I've got a free weightlifting checklist. The weightlifting checklist, it's literally going to pinpoint the exact area that you need to focus on. So it stops all of this 3 months in and I feel like I'm getting worse. Focus on the biggest issue at hand. You then start to build your program. Okay, so yes, it sounds like you do need to change your program and you need to adjust the focus point that you're working on. Find the biggest issue, that then should create your program, okay? And then you need to then start to trust the process, okay? So it might well be that you keep the same movements, same drills, same program for 6 weeks. At that 6 week mark, you want some sort of little mini test. It's not needing to be a 1 rep max, it might well be a 3 rep max, okay? Or a 2 rep max, or it might be a 1 rep max. And you're gonna make sure that the things that you've worked on for the last 6 weeks are now visible at those heavier weights. Hopefully they are, okay? That's why I would prefer a 3 rep max, just because it's probably gonna be closer to intensity to what you've just been doing over the last 6 weeks. Unless you're at top percentages, 90-95%, go for a max. But if you're down at like 70 to 80%, probably go for like a 3 to a 2 rep max, just because you're probably not going to be making as much of a jump in weight compared to what you've been doing over the last few weeks. So you can actually make sure that the technical changes that you've been working on are now more visible at this higher weight. Once you can start to see that it is and something else is breaking down, adjust, tweak that program. Progress the movements on. High hangs into hangs. It might well be that my slow snatches are now going into pause snatches. It might well be that I'm going from a no feet snatch into a normal snatch. Can I still maintain the same positions? And then from there, we do that same principle again. 6-8 week block of work, little mini retest or test. Can we see that the changes that I've been trying to make are now more visible? Are we pushing in the right direction to then eventually go for another 1 rep max? So this is telling me that you need to make a change. This is telling me that you don't really know that you need to focus on. So get the weightlifting checklist, highlight the biggest issue, create the program, and then do the process that I've just been going through, okay? That is the end of the Snatch Chat podcast. Hopefully you've gained some, let me just move the sweat out of my eyes so I can see the screen. But yeah, hopefully you've gained some information. This has helped you out. A little bit of personal stuff with the weightlifting club and everything that I want to sort of do over this next sort of like 3 months. But yeah, I just want to make the best community for everyday lifters. I flipping love doing these podcasts and getting questions like this, because hopefully then these questions are things that you have asked yourself. You can then execute some of this in your own training, in your own life. You've then got the community with free resources to actually boost your knowledge, and knowledge is power at the end of the day. And if you're in Birmingham, come down and join us for a 7-day free trial at the Oates Performance Lab. But yeah, everything is in, I put all the links of everything I've spoke about in the comments below. Yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast and you've taken something away from this that's going to make you a better athlete. Make sure to like and subscribe. I am going to see you for episode 31 next week. Ciao!